Hello and welcome to my channel, Model Making Trucker. For my first video I want to take things right back to basics. So what we're going to do today is the 1/72 Grumman F4 Wildcat. Now this is a starter set from Airfix. So with this kit it includes 2 paintbrushes, 6 paints and your glue. And what I want to do in this video is just so if anyone wants to start in this hobby, they can see that you can take one of these sets, build a decent model without having to go straight away to the expense of buying airbrushes, different brands of paints, sanding sticks and everything else that we use. So let's have a look at the box. So on the back of the box you have your paint guide. So it tells you your actual size, it tells you where all your decals go. It also gives you a look at what colours of paints to do it in. So all your colours are down there and all your paint schemes on the back of the box. So let's open the box up. If we can get into it. So we open the box up. And straight away on the inside you have a single bag with all your sprues. There's 4 sprues in this one, and your decals, they have a protective film over the top. It's always best just to keep that covered so you don't scratch them, mark them, cut them or anything else. We'll just put that to one side. And then you have your instructions. So always when you get them, always read your cares, your safety guides and everything, and have a look through your instructions. So all in different sections, it tells you everything you need to know. Like I say, this is a starter set, so you can just go in, pick one up, walk out, and that is about all you need. Again, looking through it all, you'll see that on your instructions with Airfix, they've changed the instructions and the call outs and everything just recently. So this bit in red relates to the previous section. So you can see here, this section goes into there, and that's what you've just installed. So it's always best just to have a flick through the instructions, just so you familiarise yourself and you can see what you need to do. So when we're looking at it, you can build it with the wings folded in, as you can see on the little diagram, or if we move over, you can have it with the wings out and your undercarriage down, or the wings out and your undercarriage up. And then moving on, it just shows you everything you need, and that's your instructions. So like I say, with this kit you get your paint, paintbrushes and glue provided. Now, is there anything else you're going to need? Well, yes, there is going to be one extra thing you need, and that is a knife. And we have a knife here. You can pick these up fairly cheap from your local hobby store, pound shops or anything. It doesn't have to be anything special as long as it's got a sharp blade. So we are not going to do anything extra. It's going to be straight out the box and have a decent plane when we are finished. So let's look at your first section, which is just here. It's asking for piece number A8 and A5. So the A refers to the sprue that it's on. So if we open our bag up, and have a look at our sprues, as we can see, this is a small sprue. This is sprue E, which edge is just there on the bottom, and each sprue will be lettered accordingly. This one, sprue C, and here's sprue A, which has our first part on it, first two parts, and lastly we have sprue B, which houses the fuselage, and I think they're the tail wings. So if we take sprue A, and we needed part A5 and A8. Now, each part is numbered, so we have A8 just here. Now we're just going to come along with our knife and just cut. You don't want to be close to the part, leave quite a bit of that nub on, because then the knife will pull, and if you can see that just there, you see how it's just split away from the actual sprue. If you was to cut right up to the edge of that piece, that will pull and probably mark and indent into that actual piece. We needed part A5, which is just down here. Again, cut away from the actual piece. Now this piece, because it sticks out on the other side, we're just going to turn it round so it's closest to our cutting mat. And that's it. Now to clean these parts up, we don't need all of that excess nub on just there. So what we'll do is just take our knife and just cleanly cut straight down the edge of that piece. Now when you get into the hobby, you can buy lots of different grit sanding sticks, sanding sponges, sandpaper. There's loads of things available, but like I say, we're doing it just if you're starting out, first ever model, not sure whether you're going to like it, not sure whether you're going to have the patience for it. I get a lot of people that I talk to saying, oh, they won't be able to do any of this because they just haven't got the patience. I don't have a lot of patience, but I enjoy sitting down with my models and just building them and making them come to life. So that bit is going to fit in the back, just there, just like that. Now it's always key to make sure you dry fit everything. If you don't dry fit it and glue it straight away, if it doesn't fit, doesn't quite fit, then it's going to be difficult to take that glue off to replace, to move the actual part. Okay, so we got our first two pieces, we dry fitted them, they're going to fit well, not have much of a problem with anything else, so we're going to glue that in. Again, our glue that come in with the model, this stuff, if you squeeze the tube, it's going to go everywhere. So be really gentle and don't use too much, just like I have. Every part that connects to another part, you need a little bit of glue on. Turn it round. Put it in. Just like that. Put the lid back on the glue. And that's your first part glued together. Now we'll just put that to one side just to go off a bit. We'll take our instructions back. Now it's asking us to do some painting. So we've got paint colour 117 and 33. Now here's all our paints we got. Again, all come in the pack. They all have, let's choose one that you can see, so they all have numbers printed on the top. 34, that one's 117. Now the only thing with these printed on the top of the actual containers is when you're using them, you'll notice over time that that number will rub off. Now what I do is I get a little dot sticker, just put it on the top and write the number on, and then it's there for good. So what we need to do is open it up. And we get a stirrer. Now I do have some cocktail sticks, but again you can take one of your sprues, cut the edge off the sprue, that could be a stirrer. Don't need to go out and buy cocktail sticks or anything else like that. You just give that a mix up. Some of these you tend to find they're lumpy in the bottom. All of that will mix into the actual paint, and that's what we want to do. We want it all the same colour and no lumps. A bit like gravy, really. You know, no one likes lumpy gravy. And just put to one side. We've got 2 paintbrushes with this, both different sizes, different lengths, different thicknesses. Now, because it's all going to be the same colour, it's not too much of a problem which paintbrush you use. But always just make sure the bristles on the actual brush are soft. And we take our piece. And just start painting. Now, most people will say, oh, you need to prime the parts and everything like that. Yes, my other models, I do prime them. But also, I can remember when I was a kid, doing my first model, sat down with my dad. It was no priming. I never had the patience for priming. Couldn't wait for it to set. All I wanted to do was paint it. So that's all we're going to do there. Just making sure we get everywhere. Now this is acrylic paint, so it will dry fairly quickly. And just making sure we get a nice even colour coat. Normally the models I tend to do are 1/350 scale battleships, Second World War era, and I love photo etch. I love to see the photo etch on it, but when you get to doing it, it is fiddly, it's frustrating, time consuming. You know what? It makes the model so much more detailed. But we're doing this straight out the box, so really this is a nice reprieve for me, not having to cut any photo etch breast parts or anything like that. So we've left the little headrest because that's going to be colour 33, which is black. And again, we're not going to worry about any weathering, no weathering techniques or anything like that just yet, because it's more important to get the basics in and then worry about the detail after, when you've got a bit more confidence and that when you actually realise you do enjoy doing this. So again, there's injection pin marks and everything over this. We're not going to worry about it. Most of them anyway you can't see. They're positioned when they come out the moulds and everything. It's all positioned, so hopefully most of them, not all of them, but most of them will be hidden away. get around all them edges. And you see this paint dries really quickly. Come along and put a second coat over the top without too much of an issue. Now you see on most of the streams they use things like airbrushes. They've all got their own model hobby rooms, everything like this. I do all of this on my kitchen table. I have 2 small children and a very loving and understanding wife. So just because you haven't got your own space doesn't mean you can't do this. Again, mine's all on my kitchen table. It's put away every time I'm done. And as my name dictates, I am a lorry driver. So I am away for a week at a time. Come back on a weekend. And once the kids have gone to bed, I will get my model out and sit until I am ready. And there you go. That's your first bit stuck together, painted and completed, apart from that headrest. So all I'm going to do is clean the brush out. Because it's acrylic paint, it only needs to be in water. You can buy solvents to clean your brushes, but there's no need again to go to that expense. Not straight away. So we'll put the lid down on that and we'll take our next colour, which is 33, black. As you can see, it's black, not very black. Give it still more of a blue. Keep stirring it. There we go. We'll take our brush again. All we're going to do just go over that headrest. There you go, that's it. Wash the brush out. That's our first section, very nearly done. We have here a little square with the number 4. That is dictating our decal. So we take a decal sheet. You can see there's number 4 just there, which is to that decal. So that will need to go on that inside there. And the way to do that is we'll just cut it out. You can use scissors or just cut it with a knife. Go along, making sure we don't cut any of the decal itself or cutting the decal to the side of it. Take that there, put our cover back on that. And there we have it, our number 4 decal. So we come to fixing on the decal. Now for this, what you need is a bowl of water and your paintbrush, and all you do is dip it in your water, hold it for about 10 seconds, just let it, the back of that car get absolutely sodden with water. Take it out, and then you take a clean brush, just dip it in water, so again it will help. It just tease at the edge of the decal, just tease it so till it starts to move. Sometimes if you just take your finger, just try and ease it to one edge, and if it's not going to play ball, which like I don't think this one will, put it back in the water. There we go. So you take it and your decal come off the backing card, and just place it where you need it. You've got a bit of time to work with it. Now if you've got an older kit, be very careful because your decals could split, crack. Just pop it into position. Don't know if you're going to see that. Just like that. Just leave that to dry. Now when you're doing it, you don't want to be using fingernails because again, with it being acrylic paint, it is very easy to mark, chip and have the paint come off. That is now officially our first stage completed. So we take the instructions back and we look at stage 2. Now we've got some more decals that can go onto that bit. We have the seat and the joystick that will also fit in. So what I'm going to do first is do the decals 2 and 3 because they just fit on the sides, and then we'll look at the seat and the joystick after. So we will take our decals back and we'll go for number 2, which is that one just there. Take our knife and just cut it out. Dip it in the water again. Again for about 10 seconds, doesn't have to be exact. And we'll just move them out of the way, try and keep them dry, because obviously we don't want all the decals coming off before we're ready for them. Dip our brush in a bit of water. And just try and move the decal about. Make sure it is really wet. And there we go, it's moved right to the end. So push it and pick it up on our brush. So we've got the decal on our brush. Take our piece back and just set it down on the top there. Again, if your brush becomes dry before you've got the decal where you want it, dip your brush in the water again. Sit there just like that. So you've got the two decals there now. And the third decal is number 3. So I'm doing all of this on my kitchen table with a single light. This is how I do all my models, just so people can see that, yeah, you can go for all the expensive kit, gear, which I do have quite a bit of. I've got my own airbrush, got all different paints, sanding sticks, sprue cutters, everything like that. But that's been built up over many years. And this is how I did it before I had all of that. I'm just trying to tease it away from the card. There we go. Take our piece back. Actually goes that way round. That's it. So we'll just pop that to one side. Get our instructions back again. And we've got B11 and B5 that are our next pieces that we need off. So we take sprue B, which is seen there, and B11 is the seat there, and B5 is the joystick just there. So again, take our knife, cut away from the actual piece, so you leave a bit of that knob on, and again, because it's protruding out, we'll turn it over, we'll just cut the back there. So that piece off, and then the joystick. Now this bit you need to be really careful because it is a very thin piece. Rather than just push straight down, try and saw through the actual nub piece. If you don't, all you do is break that in half, and you can fix it, but it's easier if you don't break it in the first place. Just cut that knob off, being very careful. Not to cut yourself. Or, as you've just seen, I took the top off it completely. If that happens, it's not the end of the world. No one will see or realise that that bit's missing. All that does, that bottom needs to be flat. So what I'll do is come along, take it off all the way. I just took that decal off. You can get setting solutions for your decals that will make them stick better than just water alone. I do have it, but I'm not going to use it. Whatever you do, do not put glue on it though, because it will just disintegrate. Now, one thing I am going to do, just get a pair of tweezers, just to help. Just dry fit that in there. Just make sure we know which way round it needs to go. My fingers are a bit chunky to fit in between there. So that'll go in there just like that. Now come to the seat. Again, we'll just take that excess knob. Just be very careful, obviously. Sharp knife, fingers don't always mix. Many times I've stabbed myself, cut myself. Even now, been building models for longer than I care to imagine, and even still I will cut myself. My wife will look at me and just shake her head. That seat will fit. Them decals do not want to stick. Okay, so we'll just get that seat, we'll push it in, hopefully with a paintbrush, or we'll use the tweezers. We just had a couple of fit issues just then, just dry fitting them, making sure they're fitted in. I've finally got it to work. So what we're going to do is just take our black paint, number 33, just to paint the base of the joystick before we pop it in. And get our paintbrush. Just paint around the base. Looks just like that, and we'll just pop that on the piece of plastic bag and the sprues come in, just to keep it off the cutting mat. Again, I do have a cutting mat, but in the interest of just starting out, a piece of newspaper, an old newspaper, will do exactly the same trick. So this time we're going to look at painting the seat. Again, just because once we've got the actual seat sat in, it's going to be a bit difficult for us to get round and paint the sides of it and everything else. So what we will do is just paint it before we put it in. Now obviously once it's painted, if you can try and not get any on the bottom, because that's where we're going to put the majority of the glue, it just saves you scraping it off later, because you don't really want to be sticking something down paint to paint, because it won't be a very strong bond. So all we do is get that coating. And don't worry about your fingers, they will wash. And because this is acrylic paint and it dries really quickly, if you're like me, I get bored fairly quickly. This means you can move on to the next stage of the painting rather quickly and not have to worry too much. So you're not stop start all the time. So while we're waiting for that to paint, we'll look. While we're waiting for that to dry, get my words out, we'll look at the next section, which is just here. So we've got this control panel, B10, and we do have a decal that goes on the front of it. But what we're going to do to start is just get that piece off, paint the whole lot black so it's one colour. Because when we look at our decal, it's got some lovely white detail on it, and what we don't want is to have the front of it the grey colour, the grey styrene colour, and for that detail to be lost. We take our B frame, and it is D10, which is that one just there. So again, get a knife, carefully cutting it off. There we go. Now it's got a nice top on it, and we want to cut just trim and bottoms off. And again, before we paint or do anything else, we will dry fit it, and that will sit, hopefully, nicely in there. It looks just like that when we're done. What we're going to do is take that out again. Now we know it fits, there's no issues with it, we can paint it. So we're going to take our 33 again, which is what our instructions is asking for. And this time I'm just going to give it another stir when I can find a cocktail stick, just because it's sat there and it starts separating again. You notice once over a period of time when you come back to it, if you start, which is perfectly fine, I do many times with all my models, I will pick them up, do some, leave it for a few weeks and then come back to it, and this paint will separate, and it's easily solved. Just stir it. And just go over it. One quick coat. There's a big controversy at the moment that I've seen on some Facebook groups whether you should wash the parts or not. I have never actually washed any of the sprues, but not really had any real issues, not that I've not been able to overcome, just by giving the paint a second coat. But if you do want to wash them, find some warm soapy water, give them a wash, leave them to dry. Some people say you shouldn't wash the sprues because the cleanest they ever will be when they come out of the box or bag. That I don't know about. All I can tell you is what I do and don't do. I don't wash the sprues. And just pull that to one side just to dry a bit. We'll take our joystick back. Just go for a second coat, just making sure we've got a whole of that bottom in the black. Like so, and then wash our brush out. And then we'll come along with our chair. Oh, always put the lid back on the paint. Just give this one another stir. There we go. You can see that paint on the outside is now dry. I'm going to do the inside. Again, try and get the paint even right from the outset. And then we'll look at the joystick. Just get the middle of that wants to be green as well. Now I did actually break the top off, but I can overcome that by just putting a black top on it. Not the end of the world, and I can guarantee if you show this to your family or friends, they won't even know it's missing. One thing I'm terrible for is being my own biggest critic, and you'll find that because you know what you've done wrong or what's not gone quite right, something that you're probably not happy with, but other people won't know at all. Nine times out of 10 they'll just take a look at it, say, yeah, that's nice, and that's it. So take our seat, and we will try and get it into position again. You don't have to have tweezers. I find it just helps. Don't worry too much at this point if you chip this paint, because you can always come back and touch it up. So we'll just get a bit of glue. Just again, try and apply a small bit, but I put a small bit on, wanting a small bit. I get enough to stick the whole model together. Let's get our tweezers in there, and then a joystick. Again, if you've got tweezers, they're a brilliant bit of kit. If your wife, girlfriend, whoever has a makeup bag for a pair of tweezers, just don't tell her. So pop that in there. Now we have quite a few scratches on this seat, which is not a problem. All we do, come back with our green paint, paintbrush, and just go over it. Any final touch-ups. Find when you handle it, the paint will just rub off onto your fingers and you'll get paint all over. Clean our brush. This time I'm going to take our black, I'm just going to put an end, just a bit, right on the end of that joystick, as you can remember. I did knock it off, but you won't tell now. And then we come back to our control panel. Obviously we've got the black out, makes sense just to carry on with the black. Get that bit this time, make sure that's all fully. Make sure everything is all painted. Things like the tweezers, like I said, you don't have to have them, but I got these in a pack of 12 for £1 off an internet shop. So, last of the big spenders, mate. So while we're just waiting for that to dry, we'll come and take a look at our next section. Section 4, and all this one's asking for is part A7. It shows, as you can see, that control panel was the last bit we put in. That's why it's in red, and it also shows you this bit while it's fitted. think it's the firewall that separates the actual cockpit to the engine. So we'll take that bit off and have a look at that, which is just here. Cut there. Take off the excess. What you can get as one of your next tools could be a pair of clippers, just to clip them off the actual sprue itself. Yeah, not expensive, but for this purpose we don't actually need them. So that we'll just push in the end there. It is a tight fit, so if you get something that's a tight fit, I think, to be honest, we could paint all of that and then install that control panel after. We can glue that in place there now. We take our glue, bit just on there, and we'll run it across there to that one. Oh, if I don't drop it. We'll just leave that to dry. Take our control panel bit back, and we just had this one side just to finish off painting, and then we can apply our decal. I'm just doing this on the cutting mat just so I'm not handling it too much, because I don't really want that paint to come off. There we go, that's that bit done. Again, any other thing, all the paint leaks to the back of the pot. Let me just give that a quick wipe with a cloth. So yeah, so all I'm using here is just a cloth just to wipe up, clean brush. And this used to be an old flannel. My wife had no longer needed. If she did, she didn't know it was gone. So while they're drying, we'll look at sections 5. So we're doing half of the fuselage now. So we'll look at both section 5 and 6, because they're both going to get painted the same colour, 117 and 27. We take 117, we'll find our parts of the fuselage, which is quite easy to recognise. Cut them away from the sprue.